Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Putt.
Good morning, Earthlings. Welcome to First Contact Radio. How you doing today? Glad that you could be here as always. Today is Thursday, the 19th of May, last day of the sun sign in Taurus. Tomorrow we move into the next sun sign, which would be Gemini. That takes place in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. So here we finish out the last day of this sun sign, the sun sign being Taurus. One last reminder as we go through Taurus, the Hierophant, Hebrew letter Vav means nail or hook. We want to hook together the spirit with the physical because the physical is just a portion of what we're dealing with down here. And when we do that, when we bring that spiritual through, it makes a big difference in our worlds. Our moon sign has made the transition. It was void, of course, all day yesterday, and it is now into the next sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is represented with the tarot card of death. This is just about transition. It deals with the emotional body. Therefore, the emotional body is where this feelings and transition is taking place. And as we all know, when the emotions are affected, it feels like it can be a death process because they can be so heavy and overwhelming to us. So we just need to be aware of where the changes are energetically that are taking place when they are happening. Over the course of the day, really the only aspect we're looking at is this evening, where at 7:28 p.m. Chiron is going to be in a nice trine with Venus. Chiron is that part of ourselves that is wounded, that needs to be healed, and imagination is part of the mix here. Imagination, which wants us to be able to bring forth the values of our life that are based on creativity, love, those sort of things. And so as we do that, that allows that healing to take place to the part of us that has been wounded in the past. For whatever reason, we all seem to be having something that needs to be dealt with. Past life situations, this life, things from a certain point in our life, anything where there's something that has been wounded, where we've pushed it down. Whenever Chiron comes up, it's an indication of an opportunity to provide healing to that area. Okay, the moon phase is almost up to the full moon. We're 95% of the way there. Saturday afternoon, 2:14 p.m. is when we will be fully at the full moon. Jewish calendar today is 11 Liar. Omer count day 26, moving into day 27. Daily thought beyond the script. What do we bring to the table? Our brains, our power, our beauty are all from Him. We can decide with our own free will to do good and to restrain ourselves from the opposite. Yet even then, we are playing our role in a script for which we were formed. But when we mess up, we can call out to the infinite light and say, Dad, I still love you. Do you still love me? And ask forgiveness. This is not in the script. This is from beyond, way beyond. Dreamspell Oracle, we are at a 8-tone day. The 8th tone is called the Galactic Tone of Integrity. Kin for today is the monkey, so it would be the Galactic Monkey. The guide for today is Eagle, which provides vision. Shining our beauty is our like-minded energy today. Birth, nurturing is our challenge, and the love and loyalty that is within us, that is our hidden power. The phrase for today is I harmonize in order to play, modeling illusion. Seal the process of magic with the galactic tone of integrity. I am guided by the power of vision. And as we can see here, we are in a galactic activation portal phase 10 days in a row. So we are just about halfway through. Those are times when the energy is a little bit more intensified according to this particular system of looking at time. Solar wind 426.2 kilometers per second, planetary K index, quiet with a chance to get it to 3 over the next 24 hours. This coronal hole in the sun is quite large at the top there. Definitely feeling the effect from that over the next couple of days. M-class flare possibility and X are both at 1%. Geomagnetic storm activity seems to be slightly increasing, 25 to 30 in the mid latitudes, upper latitudes 55 to 65. So a slight increase as the universe is going through its inhale exhale process. And finally, looking up at the sky, it says with summer still about a month away, astronomically speaking, the last star of the summer triangle doesn't rise above the eastern horizon till about 10 or 11 p.m. That's Altair, the triangle's lower right corner. Its highest and brightest corner is Vega, and the third is Deneb, sparkling less far to Vega's lower right. Okay, so there you go. That's what we're dealing with today, the last phase of Taurus. Getting ready to move into the new sun sign. The sun sign dealing with our conscious mind, what we're thinking about. So we're going from Earth into air. An air sign now moves. Earth has been stable. Air is going to start moving, taking action, speaking the words, expressing ourselves. And this transition part that we're going through is very important because we are continually going through processes of change. And we learn new things, we have experiences, go through a change, and then the process starts all over again until we get to the next level where we've learned a lot, we've changed, and on and on. And it just continues. We keep changing. Change is one thing that is certainly consistent in this universe. All right, UFO news is up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. 5 sightings reports for today. The first one comes to us from Australia. Confirmed UFO caught speeding towards Australia from the sea. This took place the other day on the 17th. Get a location here where it took place. Okay, it says the guy was watching a flight tracking radar using a cell phone app and caught a UFO shooting across the ocean in a straight line, 100 times normal speed. This is a great report by Security Team 10 of YouTube. UFO may not be alien at all. This could be a secret project that is headed by Bigelow Airspace. That's an area the government has paid to make things look like DR-3B, the Aurora Project, the Needles, California blue UFO that crashed, was recovered by Janet Plains and scientists. You know where I'm going with this. It's ours, probably. Email or tweet to Bigelow Airspace and ask. All right, so alluding to Area 51. Here's a nice, good 6-minute video. As you can see, it made a pretty quick speed across there. Okay, so the video link's available for you. See what you think about that. Conspiracy theorists suggest supervolcano eruption is near as alien activity increases. UFO believers raised alarms after an increase in number of mysterious activities involving UFOs near Yellowstone supervolcano at Wyoming National Park. They predicted that a major eruption of it will happen soon as aliens are preparing for it. Cat Martin, 2016, uploaded a video to YouTube on April 28th, Thursday, that seemed to show a UFO for a few minutes as it passed in front of a live cam at Elk Ridge near Yellowstone. According to the uploader, she noticed a mysterious light at live cams traveling over Elk Refuge in the middle of the night. Cat Martin, 2016, thought it might have been the headlights of a vehicle near the area that caused the reflection. However, she gave a hint in the description that one might think it was alien and the reflection was a small spaceship. Some members of the UFO community who saw the footage suggested that the light might also be alien UFO drones surveillance flight over Yellowstone for the volcano's activity. According to them, UFOs are common on live wildlife cams, so Cat Martin 2016 was wrong in her assumption that it was just from light reflection. Some observers spotted shadows on the side of the alleged object in the latest sighting at Yellowstone National Park, so they argued that it was a three-dimensional object and not a reflection. Another speculation about the sighting is that aliens are monitoring the Yellowstone supervolcano because they are worried about its impending eruption. Active volcanoes are considered UFO hotspots because, according to conspiracy theorists, aliens often build bases as it is inaccessible to humans. Okay, so there we go. Looks like our object in question right there, moving slowly across the sky. Video links available so you can check it out, enlarge the screen, see what you think about that. Stash of nuclear weapon links to British UFO encounter. A former police officer has come forward saying that aliens in the famous British UFO encounter were curious to know the secret stash of nuclear weapons. Gary Hazeltine has made the revelations after officers claimed to have spotted a UFO at RAF Bentwaters traveling around 120 miles in 8 seconds. The astonishing information came from a former cop who believes he can shed new light on Britain's infamous UFO case. Gary Hazeltine, 56, claimed a UFO took place at RAF Bentwaters and space aliens were interested in the American airbase because of a secret stash of nuclear weapons in there. The strange event, which took eventually known as the British Roswell, has sparked several books and documentaries after it made the front page of the now defunct News of the World. Gary, who worked for nearly 24 years in the British Transport Police, claimed Deputy Base Commander Colonel Charles Halt told him the airbase in Suffolk had the biggest arsenal of Europe's nuclear weapons. In late December 1980, UFOs allegedly visited Rendlesham Forest and the USAF base nearby. Staff Sergeant Jim Pennison said he touched the small triangular craft and described it as smooth to touch with Egyptian hieroglyph-like symbols before it went away. Colonel Halt formed a small team of experts who went into the woods when the unidentified flying object came back 2 nights later. He then continued a 20-minute tape recording describing the thing as a red winking eye. Halt also filed a memo stating that the details of the incident to the British Ministry of Defense, which was released years later under the Freedom of Information Act. The UFO reportedly fired beams of light into the weapons storage area, a military term to refer to nuclear bunkers. Retired Detective Gary claimed Colonel Holt told him that RAF Bentwaters had the largest weapons storage area in entire Europe. Australia, a UFO hunter named Eugene Herrera keeps photographing aerial phenomena. Minto resident Eugene Herrera has been peering out into the sky regularly over the past 3 years, and the strange phenomena he's witnessed has him convinced something bizarre is out there. Many nights you'll find the 48-year-old set up his spot in Eagleview Road, Minto, where he has captured dozens of strange images later uploaded to his YouTube channel, J Sparrow. I saw my first UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, in 1986 in Campbelltown when I was about 19. It was flying and then suddenly changed direction, he said. I left it alone until I saw something similar 3 years ago, and ever since then I've been spotting them all the time. Mr. Herrera gave a talk on Campbelltown Arts Center this month showing footage of what is captured at an event by the Campbelltown-based UFO and Paranormal Research Society of Australia. Noticed for his work, he's recently appointed an investigator with Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations. He also set up the Sydney UFO Hunters Facebook group where almost 500 members share the strange images that they have captured. Mr. Herrera said he's always was a logical thinker and still remains one. He said he felt many people had preconceptions about those with an interest in UFOs and that they couldn't be further from the truth. I try to bring some science to it all. I'm not saying it's necessarily extraterrestrial life. We don't know. It could be military aircraft that we haven't been told about, he said. The one thing I do know, and what my videos show, is that there is something that we don't know about what's going on. A documentary team from the United States is flying over in late August to meet Mr. Herrera at his spot. He describes some of the things he has witnessed as orbs and aircraft with unconventional behavior. Unfortunately, videos don't seem to offer answers. The more evidence we collect, the more questions it raises, he says. But I think bringing forward these questions and having discussion is important. And finally, one last piece. New study says extraterrestrial life certainly has existed in the universe at some point. A long time ago, on a planet far, far away, intelligent life almost certainly existed, new research suggests. In a study published late April in the journal Astrobiology, researchers Adam Frank and Woodruff Sullivan revised the famous Drake equation formulated by scientist Frank Drake in 1961. The equation sought to answer the question, does intelligent life currently exist in the universe? But Frank and Sullivan decided to attack the problem by asking a different question. Has intelligent life ever existed on a distant planet? In doing so, they came up with a new equation. It uses new data collected by NASA's Kepler spacecraft and instruments that show that roughly one-fifth of the stars have planets with habitable zones where temperatures could support life as we know it, said Frank in a statement. That was a big unknown at the time that Drake created his calculation. The new equation estimates a 1 in 10 billion chance that humans are the only intelligent species to have ever existed. 1 in 10 trillion, 1 in 10 billion trillion is incredibly small, Frank said. To me, this implies that other intelligent technology producing species are very likely to have evolved before us. All right, so there you have it. Lots going on in the UFO community trying to figure out about life. Those who've been paying attention and reading understand that life has existed. There's obviously more to the story. It's not necessarily so cut and dried. So as time goes by, we will certainly find out more. All right, I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People shouldn't be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
All right, let's continue on. Lots to get to. So it's been quite a week here in the United States of America, certainly for the decrees by Obama, the man who thinks he is the king. Last Friday, as you recall, he made a decree that all schools across America were going to have to oblige him and the transgender community by allowing the men or the boys to go into the girls' room or vice versa, depending on which gender they feel that they identify with. There was also a report that came out that got into the idea of gender, and it said gender was not based on what you were born with, but what you decided later on, that sexual biology really had nothing to do with gender. all based on what you thought. So there's been a lot of uproar, but we really haven't heard too much about that. On Monday, there was a notice from Chicago saying that they were implementing this in the schools and that students who did not comply with this, or teachers, would be labeled as those doing discrimination or hate, and they would be punished accordingly. The school in New York has recently come out saying the same thing. Now, these schools are being threatened with federal funding. There's been about 13 of them who have stood up, 13 states saying that no, they will not allow this. So federal funding is being threatened from them, even though the White House says that the spokesperson says that no, that is not the case. They speak out of both sides of their mouth because the press reports that it's the case, and then the White House comes up with their own agendas. The other day, there was a fellowship. The faith-based neighborhood fellowship was created, or actually more members were put on this council. And one of these members of this faith-based neighborhood fellowship is a man who identifies as being a female. So, not that this person could not be having faith, because this is someone who was a churchgoer who had been in the military, had gone through a process of learning and connecting with God in relation to what he was feeling. But nonetheless, it's just another one of those instances where Obama seems to be pushing the issue a bit, putting it right in people's faces. And then, of course, in the whole transgender scene, you may have heard about the animation, the cartoon that the political cartoonist came out with, and it showed an image of Michelle Obama, cartoon of her, and then a cartoon of Melania Trump. And two of them, one of them looked like a beauty pageant winner, and the other looked like a large, muscled athlete with a little bulge in the waist area. Now, people have been in uproar about this. How dare this person do that? This is racist, yada, yada, yada. But guess what? Political cartoons have been doing this for a long time. Politicians, presidents have been in the line of fire for a long time from cartoonists. It's not anything new. The biggest difference that we're having is this administration is very, very, very thin-skinned, and therefore they're not able to handle this, and so they cry racism. There seems to be an ugly, ugly occurrence that people continue to do this. I don't know why. It seems as if we've moved past an issue, but then there are those who haven't moved past it, and whenever things don't go their way, they cry racism, and what can you do except just allow them to get over themselves, get over their egos, and move forward. So here we are. It's Thursday, and now look at what we've got going on here. Now Obama's told hospitals, do abortions and sex changes, or you'll lose your federal funding. The same day last week, Obama's administration threatened the nation's public schools with loss of federal funding lest they comply with its rendering of gender theory. The White House dropped an even worse threat on healthcare institutions accepting government dollars. The Department of Health and Human Services published its final rule for Obamacare's Section 1557 last Friday, requiring healthcare providers receiving federal funds to perform gender transition services and abortions or face termination of government's aid, along with possible referral to the Department of Justice for legal action. Human Health Services states the rule will help to advance equity and reduce health disparities by protecting some of the populations that have been most vulnerable to discrimination in the healthcare context. It encompasses any health programs or activity, any part of which gets HHS funding, which would mean hospitals accept Medicare and doctors who accept Medicare and any HHS-administered health program, as well as health insurance marketplaces and issuers that take part in the marketplaces. The HHS claims that the new rule builds on prior federal civil rights laws to prohibit sex discrimination in health care and also prohibits the denial of health care or health coverage based on individual sex, including discrimination based on pregnancy, gender identity, and sex stereotyping. The final rule also requires covered health programs and activities to treat individuals consistent with their gender identity. Okay, so now gender no longer has to be based on what your actual body part is, but what your mind thinks you are. Interesting thing, I was reading up that it used to be that uh, homosexuality was listed in the mental health journals as being a mental issue. But then, due to political pressure and intimidation tactics from the community, this was changed and removed. However, psychiatrists and healthcare professionals are still concerned. And now, as we move into this area of men thinking that they are women and women thinking they are men, it has healthcare providers equally concerned because it seems to be a trend that we are promoting rather than taking time out to try to find out what is going on in that person's psyche. So it's very bizarre. It's a very bizarre situation. It seems to be a very complicated issue. You certainly have to have compassion for any individual that finds himself in a situation where they don't know who they are. Confusion is never good at any stage of the game, and that seems to be par for the course. Now, one of the reasons or questions people have is why is there this push from Obama about the transgender issue? Well, if you've looked and you've noticed and you paid attention on the internet, you know that there are plenty of stories there and information about Michelle Obama, that she is actually was born a man named Michael and went through gender reassignment in order to be this woman, and that the children themselves are adopted, and that Obama himself is gay. This is the story that people know underlying what's going on. The general public isn't being informed about this because the mainstream media, once again, is not doing its job. They are simply doing all kind of other nonsense, ignoring this. One day they will get to it. Maybe they're being threatened and intimidated because we see a lot of intimidation coming from this administration. It's quite possible that is the case. But that seems to be the reason why there is this continual gender issue being pushed by the administration, because they're trying to satisfy their own personal bent on life. So one of these days we're going to hear that Obama's finally going to come out of the closet, and Michelle will finally be announced to the world as a transgender named Michael. There's certainly been several times you can find videos where he has called her Michael during the course of an event where he was with others, saying Michael and he were glad to be there, and people like wondering, Michael, who's Michael? He said it enough times, just like he keeps alluding to the birth certificate enough times. You're laughing at people. Throw it in their face because people aren't really catching on. Here's a story: in search for cures, scientists create embryos that are both animal and human. A handful of scientists around the United States are trying to do something that some people find disturbing: make embryos that are part human, part animal. The researchers hope these embryos, known as chimeras, could eventually help save lives of people with a wide range of diseases. One way would be to use chimera embryos to create better animal models to study how human diseases happen and how they progress. Perhaps the boldest hope is to create farm animals that have human organs that can be transplanted into terminally ill patients. But some scientists and bioethicists worry the creation of these interspecies embryos crosses the line. You're getting into unsettling ground that I think is damaging to our sense of humanity, says Stuart Newman, a professor of cell biology and anatomy at New York Medical College. The experiments are so sensitive that the National Institute of Health has imposed a moratorium on funding them while officials explore the ethical issues that they raise. Nevertheless, a small number of researchers are pursuing the work with alternative funding. They hope the results will persuade the NIH to lift the moratorium. So, does it remind you of anything? We think of mythology, we think of these animals that were half human, half animal. Seems as if we've gone around a cycle and we're back doing the same things we were doing once again. Wouldn't it be crazy to know that we continually get in this cycle, we come into this life, We go through life, we create, we tear down, we create, tear down, and then we eventually get to the place where the very thing that destroyed us the previous lifetime we're going to go do again. Wouldn't that be sadly ironic? Certainly would be, and that's what seems to be the case because we seem to be repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. And finally, here's a piece. Pope Francis likens Jesus to ISIS and says Muslims must breed with Europeans. Okay, Muslims must breed with Europeans. In a shocking interview, Pope Francis likened Jesus Christ to ISIS and said Muslims must breed with Europeans to counter declining birth rates. Today, I don't think there's a fear of Islam as such, but of ISIS and the war of conquest, which is pretty drawn from Islam. He told French newspaper Le Croix, it is true that the idea of conquest is inherent in the soul of Islam. However, it is also possible to interpret the objectives in Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus sends his disciples to all nations in terms of the same idea of conquest. The Pope also said that he dreaded hearing about the Christian roots of Europe because to him they take on the colonialist overtones, and he called on Europe nations to integrate Muslim migrants into the continent. This integration is all the more necessary today since as a result of selfish search for well-being, Europe is experiencing the great problem of declining birth rate. A demographic emptiness is developing. All right, I'm going to leave the article because there's more to you to read, but you could see that there's a problem here. Why is the Pope suddenly siding with ISIS and saying and comparing them to Jesus Christ? By the way, there is a report today about ISIS and 25 people they just killed, throwing them in some sort of muric acid. There's also a report about an Egyptian airliner that went down, and at the reports we have so far seem to indicate that these are Muslims that were involved in this. So here we have two incidents going on today, terrorist incidents, and we have the Pope supporting those, saying those individuals who are involved in this need to go out into the world and breed more. Well, it seems to be the opposite. If they're causing problems, if these are terrorists, we want to have them in a place where they're not going to be harm others, and we certainly don't want them out breeding in the world. So it makes you wonder, where is the Pope coming from? Are the stories of him being connected to satanic ideas? Perhaps they're accurate, because when you hear stories like this, it really makes you wonder where his mind is. It seems to be contrary, because I can't in any way, shape, or form imagine or compare Jesus Christ to anything that ISIS is doing or the Muslims are doing. So, very bizarre. Just thought everybody should know what's going on. These are all little signs that point to the possibility that we are actually in the end times, as many think that we are. So, bizarre, bizarre, bizarre. Very bizarre. All right, I thought I'd change gears. Let's take a look at the subject of crystal skulls. Crystal skulls. We haven't talked about this for a while. Let's jump right in. Many skeptics feel that crystal skulls are probably a much more recent vintage than their accompanying stories suggest. This, they believe, is the best way to explain their existence, and no one could have created them without technologies available only within the past century. Skulls are humanity's foremost symbol of death and a powerful icon in the visual vocabularies of centuries of cultures all over the globe. 13 crystal skulls of apparently ancient origin have been found in parts of Mexico, Central America, and South America, comprising one of the most fascinating subjects of 20th century archaeology. These skulls, found near ancient ruins of Mayan and Aztec civilizations, with some evidence linking the skulls with past civilizations in Peru, are a mystery as profound as the pyramids of Egypt, the Nazca lines of Peru, or Stonehenge. Some of these skulls are believed to be between 5,000 and 36,000 years old. Many indigenous peoples speak of their remarkable magical and healing properties, but nobody really knows where they came from or what they were used for. Were they left behind after the destruction of a previous world, such as Atlantis? Are they simply indigenous modern fakes, or can they really enable us to see deeply into the past and predict the future? Much research is currently being done on the skulls. However, their origin is still a baffling mystery. They seem to defy logic. Everything that is known about lapidary work indicates that the skulls should have been shattered, fractured, or fallen apart when carved. Okay. Here's a page about the 13 crystal skulls. There are a few legends that cross over cultures and times, the way the crystal skull legends do. They are contemporary, shared by the Mayans, the Aztecs, the Native Americans, and other indigenous people around the world. And in philosophical terms, they are recorded in Atlantean and Lemurian times. These legends have been handed down from generation to generation for thousands of years, which attest to their enduring power. The legend of the Great Flood, which was passed down from ancient times, is one of the few enduring legends that is also shared by most cultures around the world, which scientists now confirm was real. While the event marked an end time for many people around the world, there are some parallels to the Mayan legends regarding 2012. The more you learn about crystal skulls, the more you realize the power of multiple crystal skulls. There are many cultures that have legends about these crystal skulls, sometimes involving different numbers of them. However, 13 crystal skulls seems to be the common denominator among most crystal skull legends. Native American Cherokee medicine man Harley Swift Deer Reagan is quoted as saying, "The skulls were kept inside a pyramid in the formation of tremendous power known as the Ark. The Ark was comprised of 12 skulls from each of the sacred planets kept in a circle, with the 13th skull, the largest, placed in the center of this formation. The 13th skull represents the collective consciousness of all the worlds. It connects up the knowledge of all the sacred planets." It says your crystals have so much energy. I was recently introduced to the crystal world 3 weeks, but I can't begin to tell you how strange and beautiful things have happened, and it hasn't even been a month. Your meditations have been great as well. It says the basic elements of the 13 crystal skull legend is that at a pivotal time in humans' history, the 13 crystal skulls will be reunited to awaken a new era, transforming from an old paradigm into a new world. Patrico Dominguez, Pueblo spiritual advisor, says the crystal skulls are complete depositories of knowledge, and each skull contains a particular specialist area of information, like a living library. And the people who will in the future be able to read the crystal skulls will only be able to extract all of the knowledge from the skulls once they are assembled together. Of course, the knowledge is going to come out that the skulls is quite unimaginable to our current minds, but that is definitely going to come out at a certain time that is already foregone. It has been prophesied, but whether we humans then use our knowledge for good or our own destruction is really down to our preparations. Many believe that there's a strong connection between the crystal skulls, the Mayans, the Mayan calendar ending in 2012. While there is a current belief that more than 13 ancient skulls exist, in recent years the Mayans have spearheaded a grand reunion of North America's indigenous chiefs in an effort to unite forces towards the community's foreseen future as recounted by the Mayan elders. Okay, so there you go. Let me go on. I have one more page, bit of info on the crystal skulls here. There's some more images of them. Crystal skulls are a metaphor that reality is a consciousness hologram through which we experience rituality. Many of the crystal skulls, are tools that awaken human consciousness referenced by the human brain, design of the crystal, and the metaphoric eyes. A crystal skull is a model of the human skull, generally made out of quartz crystal, but not always, as in the case of the Chinese jade skulls. Crystal skulls vary in size from a few inches to the size of a human head or bigger. The age of the skull can be equated not so much with the year it was carved or the place of origin, but to the age of the crystal from which it was created. Some crystals being thousands of years old, while others are more contemporary. Crystal skulls are more often associated with Mesoamerican cultures, especially the Maya, which takes it to the Mayan long calendar and the related prophecies. Humanity has always been on an esoteric journey to involve and solve the mysteries of its creation linked to people and objects that allegedly contain higher powers or can enhance those of the quester. Technology and the internet help move consciousness to that place with great precision, as if it were all part of a cosmic plan. We can sense the truth soon to be revealed about who we are and why we are here. The enigmatic crystal skulls have become another tool of divination. To that end, crystals have been thought of as having magical powers, as well as transmitters and receivers of energy. If you're recording this file, your soul is searching in these prophetic times for answers to the great mysteries of life, death, and rebirth. Many crystal skulls are designated as specific angles representing a union of sacred geometry and the nature of quartz crystal used. In metaphysics, crystal skulls are used for ceremonial work, healing, energy work, and enhancing one's psychic abilities. Used for healing, we go to the themes of self-awareness and creating balance to opening psychic abilities and to be able to understand the nature of the human creation and evolution. Holding an object to exchange energies or receive messages with it is called psychometry. You find messages while looking at exclusions with a crystal skull, or a crystal skull is a form of divination called scrying. There are countless hypotheses that the crystal skulls are the legacy of some higher intelligence or ancient astronauts who seeded the human race. Right, this is one of the oldest ones found, is the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull. It's the most widely celebrated. Mitchell-Hedges for at least two reasons. First, it is very similar in form to the actual human skull, even featuring fitted remotely jawbone known as crystal skulls. Most of them are of a more stylized structure, often with unrealistic features and teeth that are simply etched into a single piece. Second, it is impossible to say how Mitchell-Hedges' skull was constructed. From a technical standpoint, it appears to be an impossible object which today most talented sculptors and engineers would be unable to duplicate. The discovery of the Mitchell-Hedges crystal skull, sometimes referred to as the Skull of Doom, is a controversial matter and reads like a science fiction adventure film. Okay, there's a lot to that there. And then, of course, we get into the ideas of the 13 crystal skulls, relating them to various things from the zodiac to a clock, to the Jesus and the 12 apostles, to the 12 tribes of Israel, King Arthur and his knights, to the creator gods, and so on. Okay, so there's a lot more good stuff here. And finally, one last crystal skull, or a skull piece. Here is a skull that was just recently carved out of a meteorite. Okay, carved out of a meteorite. It's pretty good carving there. Here's something you don't see every day, a meteorite that's been carved into a human skull. Often I wonder about the material that makes up these metal meteorites. Are they normal, or could some of them be made from nanotechnology? Not all, of course, but there is always a chance of such things. Also note that the crystal patterns is seen only in meteorites and not seen on minerals on Earth, like some kind of amazing matrix crystallization. Anyways, this is cool. It says a rare and singular combination of natural history and modern art. Lee Dolly's Yorick is a life-size skull carved from a large Gibeon meteorite that crashed into the Kalahari Desert in Namibia 1,000 years ago. An artist who is known for selecting exotic materials with which to work, Downey acid-etched the carving to uncover the Gideon meteorite's singular lattice-like pattern, a symbol of death, of eternity, of immortality, of demise and rebirth. He explains, of any material I could think of to fashion an accurate human skull out of, this Gibeon meteorite best embodies the mystery most accurately. The astonishing piece will be auctioned by Bonhams in November 2015 and has already been estimated around $400,000. So by now, somebody is the new owner of this. Quite fascinating, isn't it? Definitely quite fascinating. So there's something to these skulls. I had an opportunity at the end of 2012 to go to a Crystal Skull conference that took place here in Los Angeles. It was a conference that involved elders from the Mayan community that were marching across the United States, carrying with them these 13 crystal skulls. And they ended up in a conference in Santa Monica where people came and these Mayan elders were all part of it, and ceremonies were done in order to take the energies that were within these skulls and to not only help to bring them together and release some of this positive energy, but to charge them also with energy so that when they went back to the lands that they would then be able to bring healing to the lands. It was quite fascinating. I held a couple of these skulls. They definitely were very energized, and there were times where you would feel that they were talking to you. And I know that seems a bit strange and out there, but it certainly was the case. And you'd look at some of these skulls. There was one skull that I really felt somewhat of a connection to, if that makes sense, called Einstein. This large skull, and you would look at it, and you would look right into the eye sockets of it, and it was like you were looking at something very alive energetically. And you would feel sometimes an exchange of ideas or thoughts. Maybe it was just a crystal was enhancing my own thoughts. I don't know. But it certainly was something quite interesting. There was also times where I remember walking up to a table and there was one skull there, and I reached out without thinking. I reached out to touch it. And as I did so, this voice in my head said, "Hey, you're not supposed to touch me. Don't don't do that." Which I pulled back, kind of surprised, and it. I then saw the person whose skull it was and asked permission if it was okay. And once I took time to ask the permission, then kind of things changed, and I reached out, touched the skull, and you know, quite interesting. Quite interesting. I learned a lot that day. Certainly felt a lot of energy when I left that place, as did everybody who was there. So, through all of these changes that are going on, we are going through changes of sorts here down on Earth. This is an article that speaks to these changes. It says humanity is transforming and changing, the Great Awakening. This was written back in 2013. It said it's almost 2013, April 2013, and the planet is going through a mass transformation. Many aspects to this transformation. In the end, one must come to realize the basic building blocks for global change starts with us, humanity, on a collective level together. We are being called to evolve past our current way of living, tapping into our infinite potentiality, letting go of our training wheels, and to fly. We continue to search for external factors like technology and alternative ways to function, which is great, but humanity cannot evolve past its current paradigm unless the souls on Earth themselves change first. From that place of change, we begin to implement new ways of operating on this planet, which can then propel us past our current limitations and into the existence of abundance, peace, prosperity, and discovery. Humanity must operate from a place of love, peace, and cooperation, acceptance, and understanding if it is to move on and expand past the current limitations and definitions that it is placed upon itself. A portion of the paradigm change we are witnessing on planet Earth today is people waking up to what has really been taking place. This can be a tough process because many humans have been made to believe certain realities are true when they are not. Through the use of mainstream media, education, and more, we've been programmed with false ideas and belief systems of how the world and the industries that govern it work. We've also been programmed with the idea of how to be, how to act, and what to do in certain situations. This type of programming has taken us away from our soul's voice, our heart, and our ability to be our true selves. When we are a young race, we are just discovering our hearts now. All right, so this article goes back to 2013. 3 years ago, we went over articles earlier in the show that talked about change at the end of 2012. So it's not new that change is in the air. There's been a transition that's taking place. December 21st, 2012 was an important time because we did go through a shift. There has been a shift energetically. People in the world are asking different questions. Many have woken up, and you notice it. I notice it. We see things taking place, but we're not there yet. We still have to continue going in because we still have this tendency to want to look outside of ourselves for the answers, when in truth the answers are inside. And the more we continue to go inside, the more we're going to find out exactly what we're looking for is in a place where it was well hidden, because oftentimes we don't even bother to go check what's inside. All right, let's look into our channeled message for today.
Angel Gabriel Daily Message Wednesday, May 18th, 2016 by Shelley Young. Remember, dear ones, that everything you seek is a flow. Healing is a flow. Love is a flow. Growth is a flow. Abundance is a flow. When you start trying to control things, you immediately start to choke out your own flow, unknowingly diminishing your ability to fully experience the things you desire. Let the universe serve and delight you by wholeheartedly surrendering and allowing yourself to be led to your next grand adventure. Archangel Gabriel.
Okay, and therein lies the trick. Therein lies the trick, because we all want to accomplish things. We all want to move through life smoothly, but we can't force a situation. Okay, it's not just about us, it's about all of us collectively. And so when we look at that and we see how life is moving, then we find out how we fit into the process of life. And sometimes we have to be patient and understand that everything operates at a certain timing. So we need to be patient to understand the timing. And once we understand the timing, then we understand that there's a time when we need to rest, there's a time when we need to act, there's a time when we need to do certain other activities. We can't always rush. I like to think of it as a play. If if you're an actor in a play and you're scheduled to come in during the third act, if you suddenly jump on stage during the second act, it's going to throw everybody off. It's not going to make sense. You have to wait till it's your moment to jump up on stage and not before. And you don't want to be late. You want to be on time. So that is what we're all doing. We're participating in a large play. If we think of Shakespeare, all the world's indeed a play, and we are merely players. All the world's a stage, excuse me, and we're merely players. So we have to understand, where do we fit in? When do we go on? And we need to be observing so that we can take place at the proper time and not beforehand. But we've got this big mishmash, this chaotic mess that goes on because everybody wants to jump in at the same time, and that doesn't work. We have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be patient because we are going through a process of change, and sometimes a process of change means we have to process the energy that hits us and that we're dealing with, because it can be pretty heavy in duty in itself. And so we need to adjust. We can't just keep taking on more and more and more and not expect that that's going to have an effect on us. We have to take on energy, process it, and then move to the next level. And all of this requires us being patient and understanding that everything works according to a divine timing. All right, that brings us to our meditation. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. Take another breath and exhale again. And one more breath and exhale. And just feel your breath as it moves in and out. And feel the timing of this breath, and how the timing of this breath allows us to breathe smoothly and easily without gasping for air. And we think about life when we realize life is the same way. That life breathes in and out, allowing us to move smoothly without having to gasp at life. And as we think of the process of life and how it moves smoothly, easily, in synchronicity and timing with some higher intelligence, we think about our place in all of this. And as we do, we connect with the universal timing. And as we connect with this universal timing, we feel ourselves moving along the path of life smoother and easier. because we're not forcing a situation but simply moving in accordance with its particular time and flow. So let's look at the world and just imagine seeing this energy flowing and see how everyone is moving. And notice those who are moving out of sync with the timing and those who are moving in sync with it. And feel where you are in that process. Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, Christ, light that shines through all, thank you for the blessings of your energetic life force flowing through all things. Thank you for helping us to understand the timing of this divine energy that flows and breathes through us, that we might understand fully the way in which we fit into this divine plan. So let the subconscious mind continue exploring this idea, observing others and watching how others are getting in synchronicity with the energies that they are experiencing. Let the subconscious mind continue on that journey, and let's bring the conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3 coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1 coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for today. Thank you so much for being here. A lot going on in the world. A lot of things to think about. We just need to get in synchronicity with all that's around us. Life's moving. We are part of this big puzzle. It's not about us, but we are included in what is happening. So we need to find our place. And as we find our place and are patient in order to do so, we will find that life moves in a smoother, simplistic manner because we are moving in synchronicity with things around us, as opposed to getting bounced around by changes that we could certainly facilitate if we only take the time to go inside, consider the energy that is processing through us, and moving accordingly. That's it for today, my friends. All links are available at firstcontactradio.com. You can check us out at Facebook. If you like the video, click the like button. If you want to subscribe, share the video, whatever you'd like to do. That's it for today. I'll be back with more news and information. Till then, have yourselves an awesome day. I love you. Keep loving each other, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.